So what we're here to do is to do a demonstration of threading the overlock machine. For those of you who don't know, an overlock machine overcasts fabric, and what it does, they overcast and cut the seam as it finishes it. So the tools that you'll need to thread the overlock machine are tweezers, and these are the tweezers that are specifically made for sewing machines. A marrow wire, which will help you thread the machine, and a small pair of scissors is useful. And if you have all of these beside you while you're threading it, that's very helpful. So now, to look at the threading, this machine, as I said before, takes 3 threads. So I'm using 3 different colors. And these are color-coded: red, green, and silver or yellow, really. The yellow is the easiest to thread, so generally when I'm trying to teach students to thread the machine, the best one to go is the yellow is the easiest, then the red, and then the green. Sometimes when you come in, the machine will be threaded and the thread will be wound around the bolt right here. Often they're not threaded, so it's important to understand how to thread the machine from beginning to end. The first thing you want to do is open it all up. This plate opens. This plate here, which is closed, you want to go to the bottom and just pull it open because you want to see the whole mechanism inside. You want to flip the presser foot up and swing it out of the way. Now you can see all the mechanism, and you're going to need to have this all open while the machine is being threaded. So let's take a look at the yellow threading. We're going to use the gray thread right here. So the first thing I do when I thread the machine is I take the thread, I fold it in half, and with a little bit of spit, I twist it because this makes it a little stiffer to be able to thread it more accurately. So we're going to go through the first hole, the second hole, the third hole, and these are color-coded. So after it's through the third hole, you're going to put it in between the tension discs, and just like on the regular sewing machine, you want it securely through the tension discs. The next hole is a little hard to get it, and you may have to use your tweezer because it's very close to the tension disc, but there it's through that hole. And then the next one is where 90% of the time, when the yellow is not accurately threaded, it's at the next stage. This almost looks like a fish hook, and it must go through the hole in the fish hook. The yellow thread is the thread that goes to the hooked needle, and it threads from front to back. So I'm going to thread the needle here from front to back. Use your tweezers to pull the thread, and your yellow thread is now accurately threaded. The next color that we're going to look at is red, so I'm going to take the white thread. If the machine is threaded, you can just tie a knot and manually pull it through, but if it's not threaded, what you're going to have to do is thread it from the very beginning. Again, I take the thread and twist it so it forms almost like a needle, and I put it through the top where I see the first red hook. Again, place it tightly through the tension discs, and then you're going to come around to the front of the machine and thread the front mechanism. So the first hole is here, and this is where it's easier to work with a tweezer. The next hole is here. The next hole is here. And then it goes directly through this red tube. The best way to thread up through the red tube is to use a marrow wire, and the best way to thread with the marrow wire is I put it in backwards. I don't put the part that I have threaded first, I put the other end in first. I put this end in and it goes a little smoother. So I just thread it through the tube and it comes up. After it comes through the tube, the red goes through this heavy needle and it goes from front to back. So now we have 2 out of the 3 threads done. The last thread is the green thread, which is the most difficult to thread. Again, take the thread, double it and twist it so it's a little firm. You can even quadruple that. And you're going to put it through the first place that you see the green on the top. Then it's going to go tightly through the tension discs. And again, as I said before, we're going to be working in this area now, and it's always best to do the red first because it's behind the green. So there are 2 holes right here, and make sure you get them through both holes. Then there's a 3rd hole. And then in this area, it's a little illogical, but the green thread zigs. The first hole that it needs to go through is this one right here. So the green thread essentially zigzags at this point. Most people make the mistake of using that for the red thread. It's for the green thread. Then it goes down through this hole. And if you look here, the green thread goes from this hole and then zigs over, it's in the back, zigs over to this hole right here, and then down to here. And then the next place it goes is around the bottom of this plate. So the next place is here. It comes up through this green hole. And the next place is the most difficult threading on the entire machine. There is a tunnel right here, which I can push my marrow wire through, and the green thread is going to go through this tunnel. Underneath the machine, there is a hook, and as I turn the hand wheel, you can see the hook is coming out to the left. You want the hook in the most extreme left position it can be. The reason being is in the middle of that hook is a hole. And not only does the thread go through this tunnel, but it must perfectly line up with the hole for it to be threaded properly. The 2 places that people make mistakes on threading this machine, 90% of the time it's right here. The second 10% is at the fish hook on the yellow thread. If you look very carefully, you can see that the wire is through the tunnel and through the hook. And again, I use the back of the wire, not the front of the wire, which makes it easier to thread. And here, particularly, if you have a fresh wire, it will thread much more easily. So you push your wire through, you can see it coming out. And there is your 3rd thread. So now we have 3 threads. 1, 2, 3. With just holding up your 3 threads, close the machine up. Close this plate, close the top plate, swing the presser foot back, and as you swing the presser foot back, you want to make sure that it catches under here. So as you're dropping the presser foot, you want to make sure that when you drop the foot, it catches. So now you have your 3 threads. We're going to turn the machine on. There's a lever underneath the machine which turns it on. There are 2 foot pedals under the machine. One lifts the presser foot and one makes the machine go. So once you turn the machine on, and you're going to press the machine to go, and the machine will create a chain stitch. will create a chain stitch. Once you know that the machine is creating the chain stitch, you can take your fabric, lift up the presser foot, put it underneath, start the machine again, and sew. And it will cut and overlock the fabric as you go. Now, what you need to understand is this. There is a blade right here, which is at a 45-degree angle. And wherever you line up the fabric at the edge of the blade, that's where it will cut. So it takes students a little bit of practice to understand exactly where it will be cut. And you want to encourage them to practice on scrap before they go to overlock their fabric. When you finish, you let the chain extend and clip it so that you have a few inches of the chain extending beyond the presser foot. Proper etiquette for removing the threads would be to cut the 3 threads and leave it properly threaded, twisted around the bolt. The reason that we leave it twisted around the bolt is that the next person who comes can untwist the 3 threads, manually attach the threads to it, and pull the threads through manually. So they could attach their own threads.